Suicide Squad. So Suicide Squad is the newest installment in the DC Extended Universe, or DC Cinematic Universe, and it basically features Will Smith, Margot Robbie, Viola Davis, and a bunch of other characters as a bunch of asshole criminals who have been tasked with fighting an impossible challenge. This is the third movie in the DC Cinematic Universe, and before making this review, this movie got a lot of bad reviews, like a whole lot of them. I think on Rotten Tomatoes it had like a 26% at the time of this recording, and that's not good. That's really not good. So going into this, I was extra hesitant and a little nervous. But at the same time, I felt, like Batman vs. Superman, which I did kind of like, this one might not be as bad as critics are saying. And as you might expect, it wasn't. It was actually pretty fun. First and foremost, Will Smith and Margot Robbie, those are pretty much the two standout roles in this film, because it's really about them a lot. But they play Deadshot and Harley Quinn respectively, and both of them have some very awesome roles, some very awesome lines, and they have the most characterization too. Deadshot has his wife and kid, who he's trying to talk to or see, but he's locked up in jail. Harley Quinn, or formerly Harlan Quinzel, she was a psychiatric doctor who talked to the Joker, and they play their roles incredibly well. Will Smith has some incredibly funny lines in this movie. It kind of reminded me of his roles in Men in Black or Bad Boys, where he was mouthing off or improv or just making jokes at the crack of a whim. And they worked pretty well. Same with Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. They were actually pretty funny together, and they work well together, and I definitely like that. I also mentioned the Joker, and Jared Leto's performance was actually pretty admirable. Going in this, I was a little bit concerned that he may try to outdo Jack Nicholson or Heath Ledger or even Mark Hamill, but at the same time, he didn't. He tried to do his own thing, because if he tried to do either one of those roles, then it probably would have come off as forced or just not working, but he did his own thing, and I appreciate that. So, to Jared Leto, props to him. Also, a special mention, Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang. He was actually pretty good. Jai Courtney's been getting a lot of shit since he's been in the last several movie roles. And I figured, well, this might be a make or break for him, and as it turns out, this was a make for him. He was actually pretty funny. Another role I liked in this was Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. She was awesome, but she was also pretty savage, vicious, cunning, manipulative, and you're like, she's just mean for no reason. Granted, Amanda Waller in the comics was also pretty cunning and savage, but this was the perfect portrayal, and it's pretty obvious that she was having fun being this cruel, kind of mean person, and I liked her for that. Now, there are obviously a bunch of other characters in this, but that's one of the problems I have with this movie, because it's not perfect. First and foremost, I said Will Smith and Margot Robbie had the most characterization as Deadshot and Harley Quinn. I meant that, because they flesh out other characters in this movie, but barely. Like Killer Croc, for example, he has a bit of a backstory, but not much beyond that. I really wanted to see a little bit more of Killer Croc in the movie. Same with Rick Flag and Enchantress and almost everyone else, really. They really don't seem like they had a lot of backstory in them, or they weren't fleshed out that much. Also, the Joker, if you came to this movie expecting it to be a huge Joker fest, you're going to be disappointed, because the Joker's not really in this movie at all. Like, maybe 5 or 10 minutes worth of screen time, and that's not good. Well, I didn't mind it, but they beefed him up to be this huge role, and he's really not in it that much. For the bit of it that he was in, he had some pretty good dialogue with Harley Quinn, and that's what a lot of people were looking forward to, and what you did see of him and her, it actually worked pretty well. Another thing about this movie that kind of irked me, a lot of scenes felt like they were cut out, and upon reading an article earlier this morning, it turns out there were a lot of scenes that were cut out or just changed entirely. I guess that had to do with doing the reshoots, but at the same time, there are some scenes that just felt like they needed to have been there, but they weren't. And it's pretty apparent that when you rewatch the trailers, some of that stuff that was in the trailers was not present in the main film. And some of the scenes really needed to have been there. Some of it established some more backstory or character development between these characters, and they weren't present. I don't know why, because that really would have helped out. Well, okay, I probably do know why. Probably cut for timing or for editing, or because it wouldn't fit or it didn't flow, or it might make characters unsympathetic, but at the same time, some of that needed to have been in there, because from what critics are saying, there's a lot of choppiness, and in that regard, they're kind of right. On to the plot. The first 20 minutes of the movie was basically a setup for all these characters. It was basically going through characters in like a really comic book-y profile, which actually worked pretty well. But the second and third acts are basically the whole plot, where they're just going through the motions trying to solve this evil problem and fight the villain. Speaking of which, the villain is not the Joker. It's really not. I'm not going to tell you who the villain is right now. I'll tell you in a spoiler-filled review. But the villain wasn't really that interesting. It really wasn't. And like I said, it was a bit choppy. There are some scenes that are obviously missing, but they did just enough to make it seem like it would flow, so yeah, you'll notice that. There is also a random moment where a certain character does something that kind of didn't make a lot of sense in the movie, but I'll touch on that in my spoiler-filled review too. And there's a cameo, and it's not Batman. Batman, you've seen him in the trailers. He does have a cameo appearance, but he's not the cameo I'm talking about. Overall, did I like the film? Yeah, I liked the film a lot. It was actually pretty good, despite the cuts and the lack of characterization of some of the characters. It was actually pretty fun. You want to know why? Because I laughed. It was fun. The action was pretty good. There was a really intense action scene towards the middle of the film, and I definitely liked that scene a lot. Also, the soundtrack. The soundtrack was awesome. Like, they're playing several different songs throughout the course of the movie. Some of them fit better than others. And it's really not that hard to get into it. It's actually pretty nice to get into it, and you just bump into certain music like, okay, that's pretty fitting. It's kind of funny. I kind of want to laugh at it. Overall, this movie was pretty good, if not great, but not perfect. It had its flaws, obviously, as I mentioned. Things that were missing that needed to be put in the movie, but they just didn't, and we should probably get an extended cut soon in the future. There's not a lot of Joker in this, so you'll be disappointed if you're expecting a ton of Joker films. The actors were pretty good. They were actually very good for their roles, so I expect to see more of them. This might have actually been the comic book movie that DC needed to keep pushing to get itself off the ground. It was definitely more fun than Batman vs. Superman. Well, even though I like Batman vs. Superman, I just hope the next few cinematic movies in DC Universe don't have a lot of cut scenes from them, because this isn't a good sign when you're constantly cutting stuff out of a film and trying to release it in an extended cut later. In the end, I'm definitely going to say this movie was good, if not great. Not perfect, not Civil War perfect, but it was definitely more fun, and I liked it, and I'm going to say this movie gets a gold ribbon rating from me. Okay, so Suicide Squad, have you seen it? What did you think? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Who was your favorite character in the movie? Whatever you think, leave me a comment below and tell me how you feel. Also, don't forget to check out my Twitter at AsteroidMike. Don't forget to check out my blog. If you like what you see here and you want to see more, please subscribe to my channel. Click on the link below or on the next slide. And as always, I will see you around. Also, I forgot to mention this, but there is a mid-credit scene after the first part of the credits. Yeah, I think this might be the first one in DC Cinematic Universe, but there is a scene after the first credits, so stick around for that. So until then, this is me saying peace out, and I will see you in the next video. By the way, this is obviously not a gun. This is just a remote strapped to my hand.